Welcome to the Why on Earth Community Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron William Perry, and today we're visiting with EarthX Film Festival Director, Hayley Nenadal. Hi, Hayley. How you doing?
Hey, good. Good to be on here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with you about all that you've got going on with EarthX Film. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for us.
Yeah. Hayley Nenadal has nearly 2 decades of experience working with film festivals, including Sundance, Telluride, and Mill Valley Film Festivals. At EarthX, Hayley oversees the festival programming and operations while also programming and consulting on film and documentary projects developed and acquired by the organization and distributed across its brands. She joined EarthX 4 years ago as program manager for the festival. Before joining EarthX, Hayley spent 10 years at Sundance in Park City working in artist relations and production, where she developed a network of relationships with talent and industry executives. She was assistant production manager for the Telluride Film Festival, working with teams to build the beloved festival venues, and also served as operations manager for the Mill Valley Film Festival. She also worked in programming at Mountain Film Festival, which hosts outdoor adventure and environmental films at their annual Memorial Day event. Hayley began her career at Industrial Light and Magic and has worked in films and television production, including 12 Years a Slave and the HBO program True Detective. She was recently named a jurist for the documentary shorts competition at South by Southwest in 2023, which is coming right up, Hayley. Maybe we'll jump right into this most
Exactly. It's currently happening.
yeah. So tell us. It's so great having you on. By the way, I'm really excited. We've got a number of great things to chat about today. Tell us what's happening with South by Southwest. What's going on?
Well, the exciting thing is South by Southwest actually starts next weekend, on the 9th, I'd say 9th or 10th. And you know, there are several different jury groups for the festival, and I was asked to be on the shorts doc, which is coincidentally my favorite section of films. Chosen to be on that jury, and I am lucky to be on with someone from MTV and someone from Vimeo. And so we've actually already done the judging, and we've already done the deliberation, and we've already chosen our winner. What's really cool about it, and I didn't know this going into it, but it's an Oscar qualifying festival. So our award is can be Oscar qualified now that they're getting a jury award. So it's just a really great way to get, I think that shorts, but documentary shorts kind of get a little bit of the short end of the stick in terms of people seeing it and it getting in front of people. So I'm hoping that awards like this and South by Southwest can get more eyes on these great films.
That's so exciting. Well, I imagine, although you guys have already made your decisions, that's not something you'd share yet, right? That's a big one.
Yeah, the award is on the 13th, 14th, the 14th, that Tuesday of the festival. So, yeah.
Very good. Yeah, and we're ordinarily we publish our interviews a few weeks after we record, but in this case, we're actually going to do our best to expedite and get it out ahead of time so folks can be a part of that exciting announcement. And although we'll do our normal behind the scenes chat after recording our main episode here today, Hayley, we probably won't even announce the winners there either, but you never know. You never know.
And I think I would be remiss not to mention that EarthX Film is also doing an official event at South by. We've kind of found, EarthX is all about climate stories that matter. And we are partnering with a company called Gnarly Bay and a musician named Kishibashi to put on an event on March 12th at 3:10 at ACL Live to talk about climate stories that matter and just kind of how film and music can help address environmental issues.
Yeah, and what's amazing to me is, as you and I were discussing the other day, this whole movement of independent film festivals and a variety of films, documentary and otherwise,
Mhm.
are sort of transiting this arc from entertainment and art per se into activism and even like inspirational educational pieces, helping the public to become more aware and engaged in a number of these different aspects of the ecological and social challenges that we're facing right now. And you've sort of seen this evolution firsthand
Yeah,
in your various
absolutely.
roles.
I mean, I think it's really hard not to respond to what's happening from an artistic viewpoint. And I think that a lot of organizations, a lot of these nonprofit film organizations are kind of waking up to realizing that those stories need to be funded and with grants, and that those stories need to be showcased to kind of just start the conversation that needs to be happening in the public. Whether it's a hopeful conversation or it's an activism conversation or it's a like, holy crap, we got to do something conversation. It's kind of all of those things at once.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. We've had the opportunity to connect with a few different filmmakers in the last year or two, and a couple of the documentaries that I've had the opportunity to view, are sharing really, really important information, but also can end up feeling pretty heavy and leave me feeling anyway like, gosh, I'm not sure what I can do about that particular situation. And I'm curious, as you're seeing a lot of these films and working with a lot of these filmmakers, do you often have conversations around, what's the call to action? What's the opportunity for the public to get involved with the issues?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. We're definitely having that conversation. I think it's hard not to make a film that's hard right now for people to watch. Constantly having films come across our desk at EarthX Film that are like, oh man, it's an important film, but it's a tough film. And how can we, like you said, walk away, have audiences walk away with some sort of action item? And, for us, we're also looking for an action item that's more localized. Because I do think like nationally we need to be doing things, but if everybody starts locally, that's actually quite a movement.
Yeah.
So we're based in Dallas, Texas, which I think a lot of people don't imagine an environmental film festival happening in Dallas, Texas, but we've been incredibly excited and energized by the fact that there are a lot of people doing the work in Dallas, Texas, and they're kind of quietly doing the work. And they're kind of quietly doing the work all together. And then when we're kind of showcasing them, like a partnership with a film we're showing that is exhibiting some of the stuff that they're doing in their community, they're so excited. And so it kind of seems like the right time, right place for the work that we're doing to kind of collaborate with locals who are also doing it in their community.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I had the opportunity to get down there for the EarthX Film Festival gathering in 2019, right before COVID. And of
Mhm.
course, we got to give a shout out to Trammell Crow, who has spearheaded so much around all of this. He's the founder of EarthX and has been on our podcast and
Mm.
is doing so much in the way of environmental leadership, assembling coalitions of organizations from all around the world and really helping to elevate the awareness around many of
Yeah.
these issues. I think it's amazing some of the things I've heard happening in Dallas and
Yeah.
elsewhere. So
Yeah. Yeah. We have the unique like mission and opportunity to bring both sides of the table to the environmental conversation. It's not a Republican Democrat issue. It's not a conservative liberal issue. It's an everybody's world earth issue. And how do we kind of both come to the table and come up with solutions? And I personally think it's the best way to do it. I don't think we're going to move the needle if we're just looking to one side for solutions.
I really agree. And this also sort of makes me think about another interesting point, which is the role of storytelling in these movements, working on these various issues impacting all of us all over, regardless of our political views, our
Yeah.
socioeconomic status, what have you. We're all being affected by these
Mhm.
situations. And
Mhm.
obviously, film is a very powerful medium for storytelling. I'm a writer, as you know. I write books, and
Yeah.
and I am struck by how potent these opportunities are to affect people's points of view and actions in the world. What do you see there in terms of the potential that storytelling can help in these myriad challenging situations that
Yeah.
we're facing.
Well, I want to pick an example of a filmmaker that we work with often. His name's Ben Masters. He's incredible. He's from, I believe, near Austin, Texas. He has a science background, then turned filmmaker, and he's kind of I've heard this term in environmental climate story conversation, but the Trojan Horse method, where it's somebody who is 100% walks the walk and talks the talk, but he is a Texan through and through, but he also is deeply, deeply tied to the environment of Texas. He makes films about species important to Texas. He just made this film called Deep in the Heart that is kind of like the oh man, I'm forgetting that kind of the BBC environmental it's like
Attenborough.
yeah, but it's like the environment, it's like the Texas version of that. Matthew McConaughey is actually the narrator. And it's kind of like it's the move of he tells a really good story with incredible imagery. And no matter who you are as a Texan, you walk in and you see that film and you're like just so amazed at this state that you live in and so proud of all the environmental work that's happening there and all the species that live there and the beautiful landscapes and all that stuff. So it doesn't like people come and see his films with like the idea of I'm going to see a Texans films, and then they come back with a purpose of like, wow, that is like what it means to really be a Texan. Like I really want to embrace the place that I live in. So I think that the idea of people coming into a movie theater or people, I think music is the same. People coming into an auditorium where someone's playing and they're really there to enjoy the art of film or music. And they come away with a deeper understanding, knowledge, information, idea of something they can do for their community and their world. So I think calling it the Trojan Horse method is funny, but it is true. It's like you're coming in for one thing and you're leaving with another. And it's pretty cool.
Oh, that's so cool. I'd love to see this one, Deep in the Heart, Ben
Oh
Masters.
yeah, it's wonderful.
How do we find it? Where is it?
I think I want to say it's streaming on a major platform at this point. You definitely can rent it on like Apple on Mac. But yeah.
Very cool. Yeah,
Wonderful.
that's a wonderful story. I look forward to checking that
Yeah.
one out. And then I, of course, want to ask you about now. EarthX Film is producing content, kind of shifting from the exclusive focus on convening
Yeah.
filmmakers, and others, but now you're producing content. Tell us what's happening there. I mean, it's so exciting to hear about this.
Yeah. Well, two of the things we brought up kind of come into play with our reasoning for this. And one of it was that we want to showcase hopeful stories. And so we want to help fund filmmakers. We have an annual grant now where we're supporting environmental storyteller, a filmmaker. But we decided that we also wanted to make some of the more of the stories that we want to see on the big screen. And in our work of convening people and showcasing film in Dallas, we came across this incredible skate park that's in the Oak Cliff region of Dallas, and they're called Four Down. And it's an amazing, I don't even know where to start with Four Down, but the two wonderful skaters, Rob Cahill and Mike Crum, both born and raised in Dallas, started a skate park and now have they're feeding their community, they're building community, they're starting a regenerative farm, they're starting a hydroponic farm. And they started with, I've grown to really love the skateboarding community. I think they're really innovative, but as skaters do, they're just constantly innovating on how to be supportive of the community that they exist in. And I think when people hear that there's a compost hub and a regenerative farm in the center of the city of Dallas, they're like, wait, what? And we kind of said the same thing. And so we partnered with a company called Gnarly Bay. They're based both in Colorado and somewhere in the Northeast. great production company, work with them, a director named Danny Schmidt. And we made a short film about Four Down. It's literally called Four Down. And it's going to, also a secret, it's going to premiere at a couple really big film festivals. And we're really excited to and everybody says the same thing when they see it. They're like, I don't see a lot of hopeful stories these days. And seeing this hopeful story, it totally changed the game for me. Like, everybody leaves the room so inspired. So that's that. We're already achieving our goals, which is really cool.
That is so amazing. And, I heard recently that at the upcoming EarthX gathering in Dallas, which is touted as the world's largest Earth Day green gathering, with something like over 200,000 people expected to show up during those few days. We'll be down there. Why on Earth will be down there this year. I heard there's also going to be some big skateboarding lesson opportunity that is
actually doing a sneak peek of the film there too.
Oh
So
my God.
you'll be able to see the film, and Rob will be up there and some of the cast of the film. Yeah, they're going to build a half pipe. Like, I think a lot of people, when they think environmental films, they're thinking people climbing through the Grand Canyon, rafting on, like, they're in the Grand Tetons or all that stuff. And like, getting outside can also mean get on your skateboard and ride the streets of Dallas. And I think that for us, it's like, we're really meeting Dallas where it's at. And that's how a lot of people get outside, is skateboarding. And so at the annual Earth Day Expo, which is EarthX, then what everybody knows us for, in Fair Park, I should know this off the top of my head. I think it's April 20th to 23rd, 2023. Yeah, we'll have Four Down will have a half pipe built. There'll be skateboarding lessons. It'll be fully part of the whole exhibit. So it'll be really fun.
Yeah, that's going to be a total blast.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm going to have to tell my son about this. He's an avid skater himself. So
Cool. Yeah.
really fun. Yeah, and of course, there's this really interesting sort of Dallas and Texas connection with Colorado in this EarthX ecosystem. And although EarthX Film is based in Dallas, you're also here in Colorado.
I know. I'm based in Telluride, Colorado.
Yeah,
which is kind of an epicenter for films. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and I'm just curious, what is it for you personally? What is it about living in that part of the mountains that helps in your connection with nature, with the work being done in the environmental movement? And I'm just kind of curious from a personal point of view. What do you do over there? Are you a hiker, a skier? What are you into?
kind of all the things, right? I love to hike. It's now the season to ski. It's not snowing currently, but it has been. Yeah, I mean, if you have ever been to Telluride, Colorado before, it's like this tiny little town in this big mountain range, and in this small box canyon. And I think that, when you're in Telluride, it's hard to imagine that the rest of the world exists, because it's like the mountains are so immense all around you. For me, I actually grew up in California along the coast, and I don't know if I ever I didn't know if I could ever live away from the ocean, because it's such a part of life there. And then when I saw these mountains, they kind of hit that same sense of wonder. Yeah, Telluride is an epicenter of film creatives, with the Telluride Film Festival, with Mountain Film, with the Bluegrass Festival. There's just so much music and film that comes through here. So it's like kind of a constant muse in that way. And I actually was working for an organization called Mountain Film, right before I started working for EarthX. Very similar to our goals with EarthX, really exhibiting change makers, activism, environmentalism, all of those things through the films. And so kind of taking some of the best practices I learned there, applying them to EarthX. And also, I'll be really honest, the top visitor to Telluride is from Texas. Yeah. And the top visitor from Texas is from Dallas. So we actually have a lot we have like a big sink up here. There's a lot of people who are lovers of EarthX that come and spend a lot of time in Telluride, completely separate of me knowing them. And so it's like a very cool thing of people spending time in the mountains and also living in this city in the South. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah, you had shared with me a little bit about your childhood experience over there in California, San Luis Obispo
Yeah.
area, and
Mhm.
I thought it was really striking, some of the experiences you had
Mhm.
growing up, and would love for you to share a bit with our audience about that because it's a really interesting part of your background.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of reflected why I don't know if everybody does this, but I at moments have reflected why I am the way I am or why my goals are what they are. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that a lot of it has to do with where I grew up. I'm from this little town called San Luis Obispo. It's not really as little as it was when I was a kid, but it's a college town about 7 miles from the ocean. Um, deeply, deeply environmentally connected. We have the largest farmers market in California. We are big. It's very unspoken. It's just kind of the general practice. A lot of people are regenerative farmers. A lot of people are very connected to the way they farm. There's not a lot of big farming around that area. There's also a very large nuclear power plant about 7 miles from it. It's the only one still up and running in California. And my parents, as well as many of my friends' parents, moved there in the 70s to protest that power plant and stayed because it was so beautiful. And now actually that power plant is being seen as a major solution for the future of carbon and climate change. Biden just put in a significant amount of money, as well as the governor of California, to keep it open because it's a carbon neutral energy. And so I think kind of having all those awarenesses around me and it's just kind of a way of life to be more connected to your outdoors. I kind of took that into all the things that I do. And I can't forget to say that we have the first solar powered movie theater. It's called the Palm Theater, and it's an independent movie theater. So he shows what he wants and he shows really good films. And so kind of having that cross section of this really cool movie theater downtown where I saw a really good film growing up. And then it also being the first solar powered. It's so funny because nobody talks about it. It just is the way it is. But then when I go anywhere else and I say these facts about my hometown, I kind of can't believe a place like that exists. So yeah, it's something I'm very proud of, that I'm from there. And yeah, it definitely influenced who I am.
Yeah, that's absolutely so beautiful, absolutely wonderful. Let me remind our listeners that this is the Y on Earth Community Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron William Perry. Today we're chatting with Hayley Nenadal, the festival director of EarthX Film. And I want to be sure to give a shout out and thanks to a few of our sponsors who make our podcast series possible. This includes Purium, Waylay Waters, Soaking Salts, Soilworks, the Veritas Society, and you can find links and deals and discounts to those products and find information about those great companies at the wyonearth.org website under our partners and supporters page. Of course, want to also give a shout out to our ambassadors and those who are engaged in our monthly giving program. And if you haven't yet joined and you'd like to, you can go to wyonearth.org and click on the donate or support button and set up a monthly giving program for yourself at any level that worked for you. If you would like to give at the $33 or greater level, we will, as a thank you, send you a jar of the Waylay Waters regeneratively grown hemp-infused aromatherapy soaking salts as a thank you. That's available in the United States at this point. So thanks to all of our supporters. And yeah, Hayley, folks can find more information about EarthX Film on the website, which is earthxfilmfestival.org. Of course, you guys are also on Instagram, LinkedIn. Both of those are EarthX Film. And then on Facebook, it's EarthX Film Festival.
Mhm.
And if you're interested in learning more about the huge gathering happening in Dallas in April, you can go to earthx.org to learn about that. Y on Earth Community is going to be down there. All kinds of wonderful leaders, organizations, and folks from the general public getting together to celebrate the environment and learn more about what we can do to be better stewards of the environment. And hope to see you guys there. And yeah, Hayley, I'm sort of, chomping at the bit here to know, like, what else do you see coming up in the coming
Yeah.
months and years? And I imagine you probably have a few things in the works that you can't talk about quite yet, but would love to, whatever extent you can give us kind of a
Yeah.
glimpse into what's coming. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. I will. So Earth Day, our expo, which everyone knows EarthX for, is happening in April. But we, starting last year, we separated out the film festival from the expo. It used to be a festival within a festival. We kind of decided that was too much, and we really wanted to give time and space to the filmmakers and musicians. There will be films at the expo in April, I believe 12. Which is awesome. They complement the conversations happening up on stage, which was kind of what we always wanted to have happen. Like, how are films complementing the conferences, the policymakers, all that stuff? How are they giving examples of what needs to happen? But in October 20th to 22nd, we will have the EarthX Film Festival. 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of great films. We're not fully confirmed, but looking at being in the Bishop Arts District, which is a really up and coming artist neighborhood of Dallas, trying to make it as walkable as possible and intimate as possible. Truly, I think sometimes people get caught up in, like, I want a theater with 800 people. And we're like, we actually want a theater with like 150 really stoked individuals or newcomers, people who have no idea what they're walking into, and they walk away with something new. So that's kind of, we're going for the more intimate look this year. We're also looking for a more interactive approach to a film festival, where, like, we show a film about compost and then you actually feel composted soil, or you're learning what goes into your compost by, like, actually practicing it in a workshop after the film you just saw. So we're kind of looking at different ways to just really engage people, especially post-COVID, like, people not just being, I feel like so much of COVID, people were kind of being talked at, or they were only receiving from this, and there wasn't like a back and forth conversation. So I think that's really what is the impetus of all this, is we're just like, we want people to feel heard and also learn new things. So I think what's going to be, we'll see what October looks like, but we're really excited at kind of like a new model, and making it film and music and workshops and conversation, and just kind of like just a new thing.
That's so cool to hear. Yeah, that hands-on, tactile, interactive piece is so potent. And one of the things we've been doing a lot of with the Y on Earth community is these biodynamic land and water medicine stirs. Basically, we're planning to do one down in Dallas for Earth Day. And it's when we literally physically touch the soil, the compost, and interact with all those microorganisms and experience the benefits of boosted serotonin production. I mean, there's science showing that interacting with soil microbes regularly boosts cognitive performance, immune system function, all these wonderful, good things. And I love to hear you guys are thinking about that, because often when we're sort of thinking about film and story and even like digital media, like a podcast, it's not always like immediately translating to physical, interactive, embodied things we can do. So it's really cool to hear you guys are thinking that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you're saying is exactly spot on.
That's so great, Hayley. Well, I am just thrilled and want to be sure to ask you about some calls to action. How can people get further involved, in addition to going to the websites and checking out the social media? What are some other ways people can connect and get involved?
Well, the truth is social media first, because we'll be announcing volunteer opportunities, filmmaker grant opportunities. Like right now, we have submissions open for all filmmakers who would like to exhibit. At the EarthX Film Festival, we have a whole screening committee and programming team that will be watching everything that's submitted. We will, and I think also on our social media, we kind of talk about the upcoming festivals that we're partnering with, that we'll be at, and also talking about our Four Down film, where it might be coming to a community near you at one of your film festivals. So yeah, I kind of think social media, I hate to say that that's the way to go, but probably social media, even over our website, because it's just updated all the time, kind of talking about ways to be a part of it all. And if you are at South by Southwest I don't know if this is coming out before South by Southwest, but if you are at South by
We're
Southwest,
gonna do our best. Yeah.
come by 1:30 to 3:30 on March 12th. That Sunday at 3:10 at ACL Live. We have to let badge holders in first, but other than that, we are letting the general public. It is a free event. So it's another
That's
great way
March.
to come and see it.
What day again?
March 12th.
March 12th. Cool. I'll include that in the show notes, assuming we are able to get this out in time. I'm hopeful. We'll see. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you a question. We'll after recording our main podcast episode, of course, we're going to do a special behind the scenes conversation, which is available to our ambassadors. You got to have the password to get into the ambassador resources page at whyearth.org to view behind the scenes discussions and other video resources that we've recorded in the past. And maybe we'll dive a little more deeply into this in the behind the scenes piece. But I want to ask you, what's it like kind of for you transiting the arc from your work in the perhaps quote unquote more mainstream film world, right? Working on a major production like 12 Years a Slave, Industrial Light and Magic, where you worked, obviously that's touching lots and lots of feature productions that many of us have seen. And working on True Detective for HBO, like what's it been like for you going from that milieu into what you're doing now with EarthX and also into those other independent film festivals?
It's a big question. I went to film school because I grew up with the films like Jurassic Park and Hook and Back to the Future and all these wonderful, fantastical films that many were touched by Industrial Light and Magic. And when I graduated film school, I traveled a lot for the first couple years, and I came back and I was like, okay, I want to get into some big films. And I was lucky enough to have some connections to get me a job at Industrial Light and Magic. And I got to work on Avengers, and I got to work on Rango, and I got to work on Transformers and all these like very, very mainstream, big Hollywood films. Also working with artists who literally worked on the films that I grew up watching, that inspired me to get into film in the first place. It was extremely wonderful experience. I wanted a more tactile experience, and so and more on set because Industrial Light Magic is visual effects. And so I actually, at the time, it was 2012, I moved to New Orleans, which was a bit of a gold rush for film jobs at the time. There was major tax incentives for the industry to do films down in New Orleans and the larger Louisiana. And I just jumped in so in the deep end and worked on so many things. 12 Years a Slave, True Detectives, Planet of the Apes, all these things. And I kind of found myself getting to the point where I just, I watched documentaries, but when I was in college and those early years, documentaries weren't really that mainstream. They were kind of something you saw in Europe, or a lot of Europeans were making, but there weren't a lot of American companies or filmmakers making them sustainably, where they were like actually sustaining themselves as artists doing it. And that kind of changed a bit around 2012. And I was just like, man, I really, that is where my heart is. Like, I'm just not quite where I want to be right now. And I applied for a job at Sundance and was lucky enough to land in the US doc competition, where it's just such a prestigious area niche of documentaries. And I saw stuff that really inspired me. And then I started to see this world of environmental documentary and kind of the beginnings of that. So I kind of like to say that I started really like wide, and then I kept narrowing my focus because I got to Sundance and it was documentary. And then it led my way to Telluride, and I got into more environmental documentary. And now I'm like literally only working on environmental documentary. And I actually think it all plays upon each other, because I do think, I will say, and I know it's not a secret, but Oliver Stone, which is someone that I grew up loving his films, has a new film and a new environmental film out. And I'm just like, it's all kind of like everybody's, yeah, we're just a little bit ahead of the curve, but I think there's going to be a lot of mainstream filmmakers that are making films that address the current times. Because it's just too much on all our minds. And yeah, I think it all intertwines because we really do think really understanding like really strong filmmaking, the craft of really strong filmmaking is kind of at the base of it all too.
Wow. Yeah, and obviously Oliver Stone has put together not only such compelling films from the art and aesthetic standpoint, but also really educational on a number of topics, historical and contemporary, that are so important for us to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got to ask, we at the Wine Earth community do a lot of our work around health and balance and doing our best when we're really busy or stressed to, take good care of our bodies, our minds, our spirits. And I know you've got to be so busy right now with everything happening. What are some of your own personal practices to maintain health and balance in the midst of such a busy life right now?
I love that you're asking that question because I've very recently reconnected with kind of my best practices. I grew up a cross-country runner. Obviously, a place like Telluride and the extensive trails around here really lends itself to cross-country or long-distance running and climbing and hiking. In the winter, it can get pretty dark and cold, shorter days, colder days. And I just like really starting the beginning of the year. I know that's a little bit cliche, but I really made some goals for myself in terms of running. And so I think it's about getting that fresh air in the morning, whether it's walking or running or skiing, that really, it kind of takes away. I know that stress, it's usually this practice of everything kind of being in front of you and you can't quite see past it or like progress past it. And I think that getting that fresh air in the morning really helps. It's just a part of it all. It's not the main focus. So it kind of puts good context to everything.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, so important. And of course, in a place like Telluride, you're with the trees and such beautiful vistas. It's absolutely wonderful
Yeah,
to think about that.
absolutely.
Well, Haley, I'm so thrilled we've had the opportunity to visit and record with you today. And of course, we're going to do our behind the scenes segment here in just a short while. But before we sign off from our main podcast episode, I want to invite you, if there's anything else you'd like to say or share with our audience, to please do so.
I think we've really covered everything. That's great. I guess I would just say that, we would love to have you in Dallas, Texas, and Earth Day's coming up really soon. I bet we're about, I guess, 2 months, maybe we'll try 7 weeks here out from it. But if you find yourself wanting to come be part of a really good conversation around the environment and kind of hearing both sides of the story, I invite you to come down to Dallas this April 20th to 23rd. I think those are the dates. It's the Earth Day weekend in
Yeah, Earth Day weekend plus. Yeah, we'll be sure to get the official dates in the show notes. And yeah, we just echoing Haley's invitation. We would love for you to get down there, as Y on Earth will be down there as well. And it'll be a tremendous gathering, celebration, and opportunity to connect. And Haley, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's wonderful chatting with you.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. See you later. Bye-bye.
You.
The Y on Earth Community Stewardship and Sustainability podcast series is hosted by Aaron William Perry, author, thought leader, and executive consultant. The podcast and video recordings are made possible by the generous support of people like you. To sign up as a daily, weekly, or monthly supporter, please visit yonearth.org/support. Support packages start at just $1 per month. The podcast series is also sponsored by several corporate and organization sponsors. You can get discounts on their products and services using the code YONEARTH, all one word with a Y. These sponsors are listed on the whyonearth.org/support page. If you found this particular podcast episode especially insightful, informative, or inspiring, please pass it on and share it with a friend whom you think will also enjoy it. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your support. And thank you for being a part of the Why on Earth community.